Chosen ones, God says, your big surprise is here. Open it now. Listen carefully. This moment is not a coincidence. The scrolling stopped because heaven wanted to speak directly to you. Everything around you quieted so that your spirit could finally hear. You are not lost, and you are not forgotten. Something divine has been set in motion, and it carries your name. You have stepped into a moment that will mark your story forever. The surprise you've been waiting for is not coming, it is already here, unfolding even as you read these words. For so long you've carried questions that no one could answer. You've asked, why me? Why the betrayal? Why the delay? Why the silence? But heaven whispers, because you are chosen. The pain was not punishment, it was preparation. Every sleepless night, every tear shed in private was counted. Nothing you endured went unnoticed. The delays were divine strategies, pulling you away from distractions and forcing your roots deeper into faith. What you thought was loss was really alignment. What you thought was the end was just a holy pause before breakthrough. This interruption is not random. It's a heavenly appointment. Right now, angels have gathered around your timeline, and they are rearranging what once looked impossible. What you prayed for, wept for, and almost gave up on, God has remembered. The season that tried to destroy you is now the very soil birthing your blessing. You are standing in front of the door you've been praying would open. It's not locked anymore. It was waiting for divine timing, this timing. Heaven has chosen this exact moment to whisper, open your eyes. The shift isn't coming from outside, it's awakening from within. You are the miracle in motion. You are the sign someone else has been praying to see. When you walk in obedience, every closed door becomes a testimony that no human can take credit for. Your faith has built a bridge between what was and what is about to be. The reason you felt disconnected from ordinary people is because you were never called to live an ordinary life. You are a carrier of divine frequency. Your words carry weight in the unseen realm. When you speak, the atmosphere listens. When you pray, heaven responds. The resistance you've faced lately wasn't proof of failure, it was confirmation of your anointing. Hell doesn't fight what isn't threatening. The storms came because your presence carries the potential to change entire generations. God didn't choose you for comfort. He chose you for impact. There's something sacred about this moment. You can almost feel the air shifting. Heaven's voice is saying, the wait is over. What once was hidden is being revealed. What once was delayed is being delivered. This isn't about luck. It's about divine orchestration. The surprise that God promised you is unfolding, not as a distant future, but as a living reality. You've entered the hour of unveiling. The door of destiny is open wide, and your name is written on it. So breathe. Let go of the weight of yesterday. Forgive what you couldn't control. Release the fear that has kept you still. You are not too late, and you have not missed your chance. The very things that tried to break you have become your testimony. What once was chaos is now becoming clarity. You will soon look back and realize it all worked together for this moment. You are crossing into the realm where prayers turn into manifestations. As Jesus declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 32, do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Do you feel that pull in your spirit? That's not emotion, it's confirmation. Heaven has just released your name into a new frequency of blessing. Don't resist it. Don't second guess it. Receive it fully. You've survived every battle that tried to erase you because purpose demanded your survival. This is your divine interruption, the kind that changes everything. Now, take one small prophetic step of obedience. Lift your heart, lift your voice, and align with heaven's decree. Show that you have heard the call, that you understand this moment is sacred. Type 777 inches, the comments right now as a sign that you receive this word, that you open the gift, and that you are ready for what God has prepared. Like, share, and subscribe so the next divine message finds you without delay. Because heaven isn't done revealing what's next. Your big surprise is not just arriving, it's already inside you, waiting to be unwrapped by faith. You will soon see doors open that once terrified you. The same places that rejected you will call for you. The same voices that doubted you will witness your elevation. This is not coincidence, it's divine reversal. A visible sign that your waiting was not wasted. The heavens are aligning your steps with purpose. Everything delayed is now released. Everything hidden is now revealed. You are stepping into divine momentum where grace accelerates you beyond human limitation. Stand firm. Stay faithful. This is your unveiling season of unstoppable favor. Your heart knows it, something sacred has shifted. From this day forward, you walk with new light, new strength, and new authority. You are not chasing blessings anymore. Blessings are chasing you. Keep moving in faith. Your surprise has only just begun. You have carried a hidden mark since the beginning, a seal placed by divine hands long before the world knew your name. You may have felt unseen, forgotten, or even rejected, but heaven never lost sight of you. Every detour, every disappointment, every heartbreak has been woven into the thread of your destiny. You were never being punished, you were being prepared. The delays were not denials, they were divine shields protecting what could not yet be revealed. There were moments you questioned your worth, moments when you looked at others and wondered why their paths seemed easier, why their doors opened faster, why their voices were heard while yours was silenced. Yet, in the silence, heaven was sculpting your identity. You were not being ignored, you were being refined. The world measures success by visibility, but heaven measures it by obedience. You stayed when others left. You believed when others doubted. You endured when others quit. That perseverance has branded you as one of heaven's chosen. When you think of your past, remember this: nothing was wasted. The nights you cried until dawn, the friendships that crumbled, the prayers that seemed unanswered, all of it built spiritual muscle in you. What once broke you is now the very strength that holds you together. The pressure didn't destroy you, it purified you. Like gold in the fire, you've been shaped for a higher purpose. That's why the battles were so intense, because your calling is not small. You carry weight in the spirit. Your mere existence disrupts darkness. You are marked, not for ordinary existence, but for divine influence. Wherever you go, the unseen recognizes you. Light follows you, even when you can't feel it. There's a reason envy rises when you enter a room. Why some people withdraw without cause. Your presence reveals what they've been hiding. You carry a frequency that exposes falseness. You carry the scent of purpose, and the enemy can smell it before you even arrive. Think of the moments when you wanted to give up. Remember the voice that kept whispering, "Hold on just a little longer." That was not coincidence, that was command. You were sustained by something greater than your willpower. It was the breath of God keeping your purpose alive. Each time you survived what should have destroyed you, heaven took note. You were being proven in secret so you could be trusted in public. This is why you don't fit in with the crowd. You've tried to blend in, but you always stood out. You tried to stay quiet, but your spirit wouldn't let you. You were designed to be different. The world calls it isolation. Heaven calls it incubation. While others were being seen, you were being shaped. While they were celebrated, you were being sanctified. And now, the seal of your preparation glows brighter than ever. There will come a time sooner than you think when everything suddenly makes sense. You'll realize why certain doors had to stay closed, why certain people had to walk away, why you had to go through seasons that felt like endless waiting. You'll see how the puzzle pieces fit perfectly, how what once looked like pain was really protection. The seal of the chosen isn't something you earn, it's something you carry. Unshakable and undeniable. In quiet moments, heaven has whispered your name. You may not have heard it, but your soul responded. That's why you can't quit. Why, even in exhaustion, something inside of you still believes. The mark on you isn't visible to the natural eye, but in the spiritual realm, it shines brighter than fire. Angels recognize it, darkness fears it, and heaven has just declared it's time for the seal to be revealed. The world will soon see what heaven already knows about you. Your story will become a testimony. The very things that once embarrassed you will become evidence of divine preservation. You will no longer have to explain who you are. The fruit of your life will speak louder than any introduction. You were never meant to beg for recognition. You were meant to walk in revelation. There's power in your process. Every scar tells a sacred story. Every setback is a setup for your unveiling. You are the proof that grace is not fragile. You are the evidence that purpose survives pressure. You are the reminder that God hides his greatest treasures until the appointed time, and that time is drawing near. Heaven's mark upon you is unerasable, and no amount of rejection can cancel what has been sealed by divine decree. The prophet Isaiah wrote in chapter 49, verse 16, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me." You were never lost. You were written into eternity's script. Heaven has not forgotten your name. It is etched into divine memory. The seal of the chosen cannot be broken. You are not just surviving, you are being unveiled. The time of hiddenness is over. The one who was overlooked is about to be revealed. There were seasons when heaven seemed silent. You prayed and heard nothing. You fasted and felt no change. You waited for signs that never appeared. The silence was heavy, almost unbearable at times. But what you didn't realize was that the silence wasn't God's absence, it was his strategy. He wasn't ignoring you, he was preparing the stage for your next chapter. When the teacher is silent, it's often because the test has already begun. Heaven's silence isn't rejection, it's refinement. In the quiet, your faith is stretched, your motives are revealed, and your roots grow deeper. You begin to see that his voice isn't always thunderous. Sometimes it's a whisper that echoes inside your chest. Sometimes it's the peace that steadies you when logic fails. And sometimes it's the unshakable conviction that says, "Don't give up now." Every time you felt nothing and kept believing anyway, you were passing a spiritual exam. When God hides, he's never far, like the sunrise before dawn. His light is preparing to break through unseen. You think nothing is happening, but heaven is moving behind closed curtains. The silence isn't empty, it's loaded with divine orchestration. The unanswered prayers are being arranged into timing that makes sense only in hindsight. What looks like stillness is really synchronization. You're not waiting on God. He's waiting for everything else to align perfectly with His promise to you. Do you remember the time you almost stopped praying? The time you thought, maybe this isn't meant for me yet? Something inside whispered, hold on. That wasn't coincidence, that was covenant. The Spirit of God inside you refused to let you quit. You were held up by grace, carried by unseen hands, guarded by love that doesn't give up. When you couldn't feel Him, He was standing right beside you, building a future you couldn't yet imagine. There's a sacred lesson hidden inside divine silence. God speaks loudest in what He allows. When He withholds an answer, He's teaching you to listen to your life, to see how even delays carry direction. Every no, every not yet, every closed door was heaven whispering, this is not where your promise lives. You are being guided by invisible boundaries of mercy, redirected toward a destiny too great to miss. Sometimes, God quiets your world because He's trying to get your attention. He silences every other voice, so you'll finally hear His. When distractions fade and only the whisper remains, you realize that what you truly needed wasn't clarity, it was closeness. In the quiet, your heart learns to recognize Him without the noise. That's where transformation happens, not in the shout, but in the stillness. The silence of heaven is never cruel. It's holy. It's where your soul learns to breathe again. It's where you stop striving to make things happen and begin to trust that things are already happening for you. Faith isn't proven in the miracle, it's proven in the waiting. You are learning that faith is not a feeling, it's a decision to stand even when everything looks still. And now, that season of silence is coming to an end. You've matured in secret. You've been faithful in hiddenness. Heaven is about to echo back what your spirit has been whispering all along. The words that once felt unanswered will soon return to you multiplied. Every quiet night was a rehearsal for glory. Every unanswered question was a seed of revelation. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation for the sound of fulfillment. According to what is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Yes, joy is on its way. You are standing at the edge of dawn. The silence that once crushed you is now bowing to a sound, your breakthrough approaching with divine precision. You are about to hear what heaven has been working on all along. Now, type "the silence taught me" in the comments, because you now understand God's quiet wasn't neglect. It was nurture. Every moment He seemed distant, He was actually drawing you closer, shaping your faith to recognize His presence even when His voice felt still. When you declare it, you're saying, I've learned from the silence. I trust the process. I'm ready for the sound of His next move. The silence was your teacher when words failed you. It shaped you into someone who no longer panics when heaven pauses. You learned to trust timing instead of noise, to see delay as design, and to find peace in what once felt like abandonment. Now, you understand that silence isn't punishment, it's proof of preparation. When heaven grows quiet, it means something sacred is forming. You've discovered that faith grows best in stillness, that power matures in patience, and that God's whispers carry more strength than 1,000 shouts. So when you comment, "The silence taught me," you're not just repeating words, you're making a declaration. You're saying, "I've graduated from confusion into clarity." You acknowledge that the quiet season was your classroom, and the lesson was trust, deep, unshakable trust in God's unseen work. There are moments in every chosen life when everything seems to fall apart, when the weight becomes too heavy and the heart begins to question the promise. Those are not moments of destruction, they are moments of divine breaking. You see, what breaks you isn't meant to end you. It's meant to unlock what's been hidden inside you all along. Without the breaking, the oil would never flow. Without the shaking, the gift would never surface. Heaven allows pressure not to crush you, but to release what ordinary seasons could never reveal. You have been through battles that words cannot describe. The people who smiled in your face often became the ones who pierced your back. You've watched things you loved crumble right in front of you, and you wondered if God was still near. You whispered, "How much longer? Lord, yet." Even in the tears, He was closer than your breath. The breaking did not mean abandonment, it meant transformation. He was removing what could not go with you into the next season. He was teaching you that strength is not built in comfort but in surrender. Every breaking carries revelation. When your heart cracked, light entered through the wound. When your plans collapsed, divine direction emerged. You lost what was temporary to gain what was eternal. The pain you felt was heaven's hand reshaping you. The crushing made you softer in spirit but stronger in faith. You stopped fighting for control and started yielding to divine order. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and began to understand. Why not me? The chosen are not exempt from pain, they are purified by it. Think of a seed buried in the ground. It breaks before it grows. In darkness, unseen and uncelebrated. It is split open so life can come forth. That's what God has done with you. He placed you in hidden places, surrounded you with soil and silence. Not to bury you, but to plant you. The pressure of the dirt wasn't punishment, it was protection. And now, the season of sprouting has come. The cracks of yesterday are becoming the roots of tomorrow's stability. You may not have seen it then, but every heartbreak was holy. Every betrayal had purpose. Every door that slammed shut was saving you from a lesser life. You thought you were losing people, but you were being pruned for growth. God cuts off what doesn't carry fruit. The breaking stripped away what was fragile and false, leaving only what is real and rooted. You are stronger now, not because life became easier, but because grace became deeper. It's strange how pain becomes a prophecy when you surrender it. What you once cursed, you now thank God for. The suffering taught you wisdom that comfort never could. It made you empathetic, discerning, patient, and powerful. You no longer chase approval, you carry authority. You no longer fear storms, you understand they cleanse the atmosphere. The breaking turned you from a survivor into a vessel, one that heaven can now trust to carry the weight of glory. Every chosen one must walk through Gethsemane, the place where the soul cries, "Not my will, but yours be done." It's in that surrender that the old identity dies and the true self is born. You're not the same person who entered the storm. The old version of you wouldn't have survived what you faced. But the breaking gave birth to resilience. You were purified through pressure. And now, every scar glows with purpose. The people who watched your downfall won't understand your comeback. They'll see the glory but not the crushing that birthed it. They'll see the crown but not the cross that shaped it. Don't waste time explaining your process to those who didn't live it. Heaven saw it all, and heaven is your witness. You have emerged from the ashes, carrying the fragrance of endurance and the mark of divine craftsmanship. Now you understand why you couldn't skip the pain. It was never random, it was revelation disguised as chaos. God used it to break your dependence on people, plans, and predictability. He was proving that his strength is made perfect in your weakness. You've walked through the fire, but you didn't burn. You walked through the flood, but you didn't drown. Every trial became testimony. Every wound became wisdom. The Apostle Paul reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." The breaking was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to deliver you into maturity. What once felt like the end was actually the beginning of divine unveiling. You have passed through the fire and come out refined, not ruined. Your story is proof that broken things in God's hands are still beautiful, still powerful, and still destined to rise. You are not the fracture, you are the flame that rose through it. Every crack now glows with purpose. Every scar tells glory's story. Your breaking birthed brilliance, heaven always intended to reveal. There are moments when heaven sends a signal, a divine notification that destiny has just been activated. You may not have heard it with your ears, but your spirit felt it. Something shifted. Something invisible clicked into place. You have crossed from waiting into walking, from hoping into having. The prayers you whispered in the dark have reached heaven's throne. And now heaven is whispering back, "It's time." This is the sound of movement after stillness. The sound of a new chapter opening in your life. The things that once felt far away are now approaching you. The blessings you thought were delayed are now in delivery. You've been faithful through tests, loyal in obscurity, steady in storms, and heaven has taken notice. Every act of patience was a seed. Every moment of surrender was a sacrifice. Now, the harvest begins. Think of this moment like a divine alarm going off inside your spirit. The vibration of heaven is calling you to attention. The light is green. The door that refused to budge before is now swinging open with ease. You don't need to force it, chase it, or plead for it. You simply need to step forward in faith and claim what was already written with your name on it. God never forgets his appointments. And this one is happening right on schedule. You might feel unworthy of such favor, but grace doesn't look for perfection, it looks for surrender. Heaven never asks if you're ready, it declares that you're chosen. You are the message and the miracle at once. The proof that endurance has rewards. For every tear, there is recompense. For every rejection, there is restoration. And for every delay, there is divine acceleration. You've been hearing the phrase, "It's your time," and maybe you've doubted it before. But this time, it isn't cliché. It's confirmation. The season that was closed off to you has been reopened under new authority, heaven's authority. You are walking into rooms that once ignored you, speaking to hearts that once misunderstood you, and stepping onto paths that were once blocked by unseen hands. The alarm you feel isn't anxiety, it's awakening. As this message flows to you, remember, it's not just sound waves, it's spirit waves. Heaven uses the simplest moments to send the greatest confirmations. What you're reading now is one of them. Every line is a reminder that you are not behind. You are right on time. Every delay had divine intention. Every silence was a setup for this revelation. You were never forgotten. According to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. Doors are opening now, not because you forced them, but because you believed. Every ask that once echoed into silence is being answered. Every knock that went unanswered is now met with invitation. You are entering the phase where faith becomes sight. And while heaven moves, I want to speak gently to your heart about something deeper. Just as light travels further when it's shared, the same is true for this message. Every like, every share, every subscribe is more than a gesture. It's a way of passing the flame so another soul doesn't give up before their dawn. When you share light, you multiply it. When you lift others, heaven lifts you. If this message has reached you in a moment of confirmation, let it not stop here. You can become part of the river that carries this voice further by simply pressing subscribe, or by sowing a seed of light through a heartfelt donation. Not because you must, but because you may. Think of it this way. A candle doesn't lose its flame when lighting another. It doubles the brightness of the room. Every act of support, whether a like, a share, or a gift, is not a transaction. It's transformation. It's how you help keep the flame alive so someone wandering through their own darkness can find direction again. Your giving, no matter how small, is like a drop of oil poured into a lamp, keeping the message burning for those who need warmth and guidance. No pressure, only presence. No demand, only invitation. Let your heart lead. Let generosity be the language of your gratitude. Because what's happening here isn't just content, it's connection. It's a movement of hearts awakening to their divine identity. When you choose to give, to share, or to stand with this message, you're quietly telling heaven, use me too. And heaven always does. So, as the divine notification sounds again in your spirit, lift your eyes, step forward in faith, like if you felt the light. Share it if you want others to feel it. Subscribe if you wish to walk this path together. And give only if your heart whispers yes. Your obedience opens your door. Your kindness keeps others' doors from closing. And as that light moves from your heart to another's, heaven smiles. What began as one spark becomes a constellation of hope. Each giver a flame in God's unfolding masterpiece. There are moments when heaven releases a code, a divine number carrying prophetic meaning, one that marks a shift in your journey. This is that moment. The realm of the unseen is speaking to you through symbols, through timing, through subtle confirmations that others might overlook. What you are experiencing right now is not random, it's revelation unfolding. When God speaks in patterns, it's to draw your attention. He repeats what matters most until your spirit finally catches the rhythm. And right now, heaven is whispering that something is about to multiply in your life. The doors that opened in the previous season are not the end of your journey. They are the beginning of divine expansion. What once felt small will soon grow beyond recognition. Every season of silence and breaking was designed to prepare you for this overflow. You were stretched not to be broken, but to be enlarged. The pain created capacity. The loneliness created listening. The waiting created wisdom. Now, those empty places inside you are ready to hold more grace, more favor, more peace, more clarity. The same God who allowed you to walk through scarcity is now trusting you with abundance. You may sense it even now, a subtle quickening in your spirit. That is heaven's confirmation. The same angels who watched you weep are now rejoicing because you made it to the threshold of transformation. You are not standing in lack anymore. You are standing in alignment. Everything that once drained you is now being replaced by divine supply. This next phase of your life will not require striving. It will require stewardship. You don't have to chase what's yours. It will recognize you. The blessings coming will be drawn to your light because your spirit now carries the frequency of faith. You have graduated from hoping to knowing. You no longer question whether God can you rest in the truth that He already is. You might not realize it, but heaven's economy doesn't work like Earth's. Down here, people give to get. Up there, giving is the getting. The more you pour, the more you're filled. The more you release, the freer you become. And the number heaven has given today represents that divine exchange, the circulation of grace that cannot run dry. Your growth will not be quiet. People who once dismissed you will soon ask how you did it. But you won't boast in yourself. You'll point to the one who turned your mourning into momentum. The season of scarcity has ended. The river of provision has found your name. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Joel. Chapter 2, verse 24. The threshing floors will be filled with grain. The vats will overflow with new wine and oil. That's not poetic language, it's prophetic reality. Heaven is declaring that your storehouses, both spiritual and physical, are being refilled. The oil that ran low is flowing again. The strength that seemed gone is returning. The creativity that felt buried is awakening. Everything that was emptied in the struggle is now being restored in double measure. You have entered what heaven calls the fullness season. The waiting was your wilderness. The present is your promised land. You are stepping into the part of your story where things finally make sense. The tears you cried are watering the field of your future. The prayers you thought went unanswered have been building this moment quietly. Like roots under the soil waiting for spring. So now, at this prophetic moment, heaven extends an invitation to you. Align yourself with this new frequency. Step into agreement with what God is doing right now. To mark this alignment, comment 8,888 below, not as superstition, but as symbolic surrender to divine abundance. In heaven's language, this number speaks of new beginnings multiplied, restoration without limit, grace upon grace. When you write it, let it be a declaration, I am ready for overflow. Let it echo from your heart, not your habit. You are not chasing numbers. You are answering a divine code meant to awaken something inside you. This isn't coincidence. It's confirmation. The same God who brought you through lack is about to trust you with plenty. You have proven faithful in little. Now, prepare to be entrusted with much. The flow begins the moment you believe, and you've already started believing by staying to the end of this message. Your overflow has already begun to ripple through unseen realms. Heaven has registered your name under increase. And every step you take from this point forward will be marked by the rhythm of divine multiplication. When you type 8,888 inches, the comments, you're not chasing luck, you're claiming alignment. It's a prophetic act that says, I open my hands for what heaven freely gives. You're marking your moment of overflow with faith, not fear. Your comment becomes a seed, planted in the soil of obedience. Every 8,888 is a silent prayer that travels upward, a declaration that you're ready for restoration without limit, that your days of empty jars are over, and your cup is running over. There is a sacred shift that happens when the hidden becomes seen, when the overlooked are suddenly brought into the light. You have spent seasons in silence, standing faithfully in shadows that few understood. People mistook your waiting for weakness, your humility for hesitation, and your consistency for complacency. But heaven knew what it was doing. It was protecting you from premature exposure, because early elevation without preparation becomes collapse. You weren't forgotten, you were being refined. Now, the season of hiddenness has served its purpose. Heaven is calling your name publicly, not because you chased recognition, but because you remained faithful when no one was watching. The same God who watched you sow in obscurity is now preparing to reveal your harvest before many. You who were unseen will now be unstoppable, not because of popularity, but because of purpose. Your life itself will be the sermon. Everything that tried to bury you was actually planting you. The darkness that once confined you has become the womb of rebirth. What felt like isolation was really incubation. While you waited for your turn, heaven was building your strength in secret. The rejection you faced wasn't punishment, it was direction. The very doors that shut in your face were closing off distractions that could have delayed your destiny. There will come a moment when those who questioned your path will witness your unveiling. They'll see the favor on your life and call it sudden. But you'll know it wasn't sudden at all, it was sacred timing. You paid the unseen price for visible glory. You learned discipline when no one applauded. You chose integrity when no one noticed. That's why God can now trust you with visibility. Remember, every spotlight carries heat. Many crave the light but forget that fire burns. Yet you, through your seasons of hidden endurance, have learned how to carry the flame without being consumed by it. The oil that burns in you now came from the crushing you endured. Every disappointment, every misunderstanding, every lonely night poured something holy into your spirit. You've become a vessel that glows, not for attention, but for assignment. When the light of revelation shines upon your life, walk with humility. Fame fades, but favor sustains. Don't chase platforms, pursue purpose. You are not being promoted to impress people, you are being positioned to impact them. The light that's coming upon you is not to make you seen, but to make God known through you. The power you carry is not for display but for deliverance. You will notice that people who once ignored you may begin to return. Some will come with apologies, others with curiosity, and a few with hidden motives. Walk in discernment. Not every open door is divine. Some are distractions disguised as opportunities. The enemy cannot stop your rise, but he will try to distort your focus. Stay anchored. Remember what got you here: faith, obedience, and humility. This new visibility will not change who you are. It will reveal who you've always been. The world will finally see what heaven saw all along. The same spirit that sustained you in the valley will now sustain you on the mountain. The grace that covered your silence will now amplify your voice. You will not have to demand recognition, it will follow you, because the light of purpose attracts attention naturally. As written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden." The light within you is no longer to be concealed. Heaven has placed you on the hilltop, not for pride, but for purpose. Not for show, but for service. The glow you carry will guide others who are still walking through darkness. They will find direction through your example, courage through your story, and faith through your endurance. And when the attention comes, and it will remember that visibility is not victory, obedience is. Stay grounded. Keep your heart pure. The same hands that lifted you can keep you steady. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. The fruit of your life will speak for itself louder than any defense. This is the hour when the hidden are highlighted. Heaven is unveiling its quiet warriors, those who fought unseen battles and still chose love over bitterness, service over spotlight, and purpose over pride. You are among them. Your time in the shadows has not been wasted. It was the forge where you were shaped into someone who can handle the light. So, step forward with grace. You don't need to announce your arrival. The anointing already speaks for you. The stage that once felt distant is now within reach. And when you stand there, remember this: the applause of heaven is worth more than the praise of crowds. You have been prepared, purified, and positioned. Now, heaven pulls back the curtain and says, "It's your moment, shine." Not for glory, but for guidance. In every wilderness, there comes a table. You may not see it at first, hidden among the ashes of your exhaustion, but it's there, set by unseen hands, prepared in perfect timing. The very place where you were most hungry, most heartbroken, most uncertain, is where heaven now chooses to feed you. The wilderness was not your punishment, it was your proving ground. It stripped away what could not sustain you, so that when provision arrived, you would recognize its source. You have walked through dry seasons when prayer felt like dust in your mouth, when every promise seemed delayed beyond reason. But even in those barren landscapes, God was not absent. He was watching, waiting for the moment your faith would outlast your feelings, because faith that thrives without comfort becomes unshakable. You learned how to depend on manna instead of maps, on whispers instead of applause. That dependence became your secret strength. And now, just as he did for his people in the desert, God is spreading a table before you. But notice where it's placed, not in safety, but in the presence of your enemies. The same territory that tried to starve you will witness your sustenance. The same mouths that gossiped about your downfall will have to watch your restoration. Heaven is not vindictive, it's poetic. The table becomes both a feast and a testimony. At this table, there's no rush. You are not competing for a seat. What's yours has your name on it, written by hands that never make mistakes. The meal prepared for you is not fast food, it's a banquet seasoned with patience. Every delay added depth. Every detour added flavor. When you taste what's coming, you'll understand why it couldn't come sooner. God wasn't late. He was marinating the miracle. Look closely at the setting. On the table are things you once prayed for and forgot. Blessings you abandoned because time convinced you they'd expired. Yet, here they are, fresh and waiting. There is joy where you once had sorrow, opportunity where you once had emptiness, peace where you once had fear. Heaven kept your portion safe while you healed. What was reserved for you could never be reassigned. There will be moments as you sit at this table when you'll look around and realize how few people remained. Don't grieve their absence, honor it. Some were not meant to dine with you at this level. They were lessons, not lifetimes. You can love them, bless them, and still release them. The table is not crowded because intimacy with God is never noisy. The feast is for the faithful, not the famous. The wilderness taught you hunger, the table teaches you honor. You're learning that abundance is not for showing off, it's for sharing. You will feed others from the overflow of what you receive. The bread on your table is not meant to grow stale, it's meant to be broken and multiplied. The miracles you've endured will nourish those still wandering. Your scars will remind them that the wilderness doesn't end in waste, it ends in worship. Every chosen one must come to this moment when the ache of survival turns into the awe of supply. You survived not just to tell your story, but to serve it. You will sit at the table not as a victim of the wilderness, but as its graduate. The dust on your feet becomes the proof of your passage, the mark of one who walked through fire and didn't lose their flame. We find written in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows." The anointing that drips from your cup now was pressed out in your pain. The oil was never cheap. It came from every tear, every heartbreak, every prayer that began in trembling. You carry it differently now, not to impress but to impact. The fragrance of endurance now surrounds you like armor. When darkness smells it, it recognizes danger. You have become untouchable, not because of pride, but because of presence. As you eat from this table, remember, gratitude is the cutlery of the soul. Don't consume your blessings too quickly. Savor them. Reflect on how far you've come and how many storms you outlasted. The meal is not just nourishment, it's memory. Every bite whispers, "You made it." Every taste declares, "You were never forsaken." And after the feast, don't rush to leave. Sit a while longer with the one who set the table. Let his presence fill the silence that once terrified you. The same wilderness that once echoed with loneliness now hums with peace. You realize, perhaps for the first time, that the greatest reward was never the food, it was the fellowship. The table isn't just about what you receive, it's about who sits beside you. And he's been there all along, waiting for you to look up and finally see him smiling. There comes a sacred moment in every chosen life when heaven hands you something unexpected, a crown, not one made of gold and jewels, but one forged from obedience, humility, and endurance. The journey to this point has not been easy. You've walked through deserts, climbed unseen mountains, and faced storms that threatened to silence your song. Yet here you are still standing, still shining, still believing. This is the moment heaven whispers, "You have been faithful in little. Now, step into much." But before every coronation, there is a choice between resentment and release, between pride and purpose. Many reach this point and fall because they wear the crown for validation rather than vocation. But you have learned that the true crown is not for decoration, it is for dedication. It is a call to carry heaven's authority with humility. You remember the nights you questioned your worth, the moments you compared your progress to others, but every delay, every disappointment was heaven's way of teaching you responsibility before reward. God doesn't hand crowns to those seeking attention. He gives them to those seeking alignment. The crown is not for those who crave to be seen. It's for those who carry light when no one's watching. The weight of this crown is holy. It doesn't sit lightly on your head. It rests with purpose. Each jewel represents a season you survived, patience when you wanted to quit, forgiveness when it hurt to let go, grace when bitterness tried to take root. You didn't just wear faith, you walked it out. That's why the crown fits now. It was shaped by your scars. And though this crown symbolizes victory, it's not a reward for perfection, it's recognition of perseverance. The world will see glory, but heaven sees growth. The world will see confidence, but heaven sees surrender. You are crowned not because you conquered others, but because you conquered yourself. You refused to let darkness convince you that your story was over. You stood in the gap between what hurt and what healed, and you kept believing. This is the season where your authority will begin to show, not as dominance, but as divine influence. When you walk into rooms, peace will follow you. When you speak, truth will echo. Your words will no longer just be opinions. They will be declarations that carry weight in the unseen. You are no longer the one searching for identity. You are the one awakening identity in others. The Apostle Paul writes in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." That crown of righteousness isn't just waiting in eternity, it begins now. In how you live, how you lead, how you love. Heaven is crowning you with fresh authority, with peace that surpasses understanding, with strength that will not break under pressure. You are being positioned not just to rise, but to reign with kindness, with clarity, with conviction. And yes, this crown will attract attention. But remember, the higher you rise, the deeper your roots must go. Stay grounded in gratitude. Don't defend your anointing, demonstrate it. Don't chase approval, embody purpose. The ones who once overlooked you will now seek your wisdom, not because of who you are, but because of who works through you. Let your humility be your throne, and your service be your scepter. Rule not by force, but by faith. The crown is not a trophy, it's a tool. Use it to lift others, to guide those who are still wandering, to comfort those who are still in the fire you've already come through. This is your moment of divine coronation, the unveiling of your authority, the validation of your process, the beginning of your legacy. You are not becoming powerful, you are becoming purposeful. Heaven has already placed the crown upon your spirit. And soon, the world will see what heaven already declared. Now, type "I wear victory" in the comments. It's not just a phrase, it's a prophetic declaration. It means you choose to carry the weight of your calling with joy, not pride. You wear victory not to boast, but to bless. When you write it, you're saying, "I accept the crown not for status, but for service." When you type, "I wear victory," you're not claiming perfection, you're claiming purpose. You're saying, "I've been through the breaking, and I still choose faith." It's your way of acknowledging that survival was never luck, it was divine design. This declaration isn't about ego, it's about gratitude. It means you recognize the weight of grace on your life, that every scar now shines as proof of redemption. When you speak it, heaven hears surrender. not pride. You're saying, I am crowned by mercy, not by merit. Each word becomes an agreement with destiny. I wear victory is not a boast, it's a vow to walk in humility, to use your influence for healing, and to lead others toward light. There are moments in life when heaven's timing unfolds like dawn after a long night. The sky of your spirit begins to brighten, not all at once, but little by little, like mercy rising quietly over a weary world. That's where you are now. You've walked through the valley. You've endured the silence. You've been shaped by the breaking. And now, light has found you. It's not just a spiritual light, it's a living promise made visible. You can feel it in your breath, in your thoughts, in your hope. Something new has begun. What you are entering is what heaven calls the transaction of faith. It is not about earning, it's about exchange. You release what hurt you, and heaven releases what heals you. You surrender the past, and heaven hands you the present, literally. The gift of now. It's a sacred trade between your obedience and God's abundance. Nothing is taken that isn't returned multiplied. Every seed of patience, every tear shed in faith becomes divine currency in this moment of restoration. You have been in seasons where you gave and saw no result, where you prayed and saw no movement. But heaven was never ignoring your generosity, it was storing it. Every act of kindness, every moment you loved without return, every silent yes to God when no one else understood it, all gathered interest in eternity. And now, the vaults of heaven are opening. The blessing isn't just spiritual, it's tangible. The evidence will touch every area of your life. This is the moment when you must remember God blesses not to boast, but to build. When He pours into you, it's so you can pour into others. When He gives you overflow, it's so the thirsty around you can drink. Your blessing was never meant to end with you. It was meant to travel through you. You are a living river, not a reservoir. The more you release, the more heaven replenishes. The Apostle reminds us in the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 38, "Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap." That verse isn't a demand, it's a description. It tells us that generosity is not subtraction, it's multiplication in disguise. Heaven doesn't take, it teaches us to trust the cycle of giving and receiving. And just as light reflects brighter when mirrored, every gesture of support, every moment you help spread this message, every share, every whisper of encouragement multiplies the flame. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not feeding an algorithm, you're fueling a movement. You're helping this voice reach someone standing on the same edge you once stood upon, ready to give up, waiting for a word that could pull them back from the brink. Think of it like tending a fire in the night. Each like is a spark that keeps the embers alive. Each share is a breath that sends warmth farther. And each subscribe is like placing another log on the flame so it can burn through the next cold night. You're not just keeping a page alive, you're keeping hearts alive. And if, as you listen, you feel something stirring, a quiet nudge, a whisper that says, "I want to help this grow," that's not pressure. That's partnership. To give is not to lose, it's to plant. A seed never mourns when it leaves the hand. It celebrates because it knows what's coming. If you feel led, you can sow a seed whatever size. your heart whispers to help carry this light further. Think of it as pouring oil into a lamp that helps someone else see. There is no obligation here. This isn't a transaction, it's a choice. A beautiful, voluntary act that says, I believe in what this light is doing, and heaven always honors what's done in sincerity. Some give with coins, some with prayers, some with simple gestures of sharing, but all of it matters. In God's economy, motive weighs more than money, and love always multiplies what it touches. If you have ever been blessed by this message, know that your presence alone already contributes to its purpose. But if your heart desires to go deeper, to become part of the wave that carries hope into hidden places, then listen to that inner whisper. It's the Spirit inviting you to participate, not out of duty, but out of delight. Your like can warm someone's faith. Your share can save someone's moment. Your subscription can keep heaven's voice echoing in unexpected places. Your giving, no matter how small, can water someone else's desert. You're not supporting a person, you're strengthening a purpose. You're not fueling a platform, you're feeding a fire. Every act done from the heart becomes a bridge between what is and what could be. So, as heaven completes this transaction, breathe in gratitude. Let the warmth of divine exchange fill you. You have given your patience, your time, your belief, and now you will receive peace, favor, and overflow. This is the divine transaction, faith traded for fulfillment, obedience exchanged for opportunity, giving turned into glory. Your hands are not empty, they're open, and heaven loves open hands. When God opens a door, it doesn't creak halfway, it swings wide. There is a certainty in divine timing that no human hand can duplicate. What He opens, no one can shut. What He shuts, no one can pry open again. You've spent seasons trying to turn handles that wouldn't budge, knocking on doors that seemed sealed, praying for signs that never appeared. But you didn't realize that heaven was guarding you from entering places too small for who you were becoming. Every closed door was divine protection, not rejection. Now, you've come to the moment where doors begin to recognize you. They open not because of your strength, but because of your surrender. Heaven's access doesn't depend on effort. It responds to alignment. You have been walking faithfully, learning obedience in the shadows, and now heaven acknowledges your readiness. This isn't random favor, it's fulfillment of preparation. There are keys you carry that you didn't even know you had. They were forged in the fires of your waiting, shaped by patience, and engraved with faith. When you speak now, your words carry spiritual authority because they were born from endurance. That's why certain obstacles will begin to move without explanation. They're responding to the key of persistence you hold in your spirit. Think of every closed door in your past. Each one felt final, didn't it yet? What if they were never rejections but redirections? God was turning your steps toward rooms you didn't even know existed. If you had forced your way through those earlier doors, you might have missed the one built precisely for you. Timing is heaven's artistry. It paints opportunity only when the colors of character are ready to receive it. The doors before you now are not ordinary. They lead to expansion, influence, and peace. But unlike the doors of this world, these cannot be opened by manipulation, connection, or charm. Only surrender turns their hinges. Only trust grants entry. You don't have to push anymore. You only need to step in, sync with grace. The season of striving has ended. The season of walking in divine flow has begun. In this new space, you'll notice something sacred: ease. Not ease because life stops challenging you, but because your heart stops resisting God's rhythm. You will find yourself at peace even in the unknown, because deep within, you'll know you're exactly where you belong. Doors open easily when your will aligns with heaven's. You will no longer chase opportunities, they will chase you. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 8. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. That verse is not a future promise, it's your present reality. The open door is not coming, it's already standing before you. You simply need the courage to walk through it. You might fear the unknown beyond it. But remember this, faith always steps before it understands. The threshold of change always feels uncertain because the familiar must be left behind. But once you cross it, peace meets you on the other side. There's something profoundly beautiful about divine access. It requires nothing but authenticity. You don't need to prove your worthiness or earn your right to enter. Heaven's doors open for those who simply say, yes, yes to the calling, yes to the unknown, yes to the next level of purpose. Your agreement is the handle, your obedience is the key. Every open door comes with responsibility. As you step through, remember to walk with grace. Don't rush the process, honor the passage. New doors often require new posture, more listening, less speaking, more service, less striving. Let humility be your companion as you move forward. The door that opens by grace can only be kept open by gratitude. You may find that as one door opens, another behind you closes completely. Don't turn back to test it. What's behind you no longer fits the shape of who you've become. Some relationships, habits, and even dreams were meant only for the journey, not the destination. Release them with peace. The door before you doesn't compete with your past, it completes it. The space you are entering is holy ground, prepared uniquely for your presence. You won't need to fight for your place in it. Heaven has already reserved it. You'll find divine connections waiting, opportunities timed precisely, resources aligned perfectly. When God opens a door, He doesn't just make a way, He furnishes the path. So walk boldly, yet gently. You're not barging in, you're being welcomed in. The air will feel different, lighter, filled with grace and quiet confidence. You'll know you're in the right place because peace will greet you like an old friend. Every door you walk through now isn't just for you, it's for those who will follow. Your obedience becomes their pathway. Your breakthrough becomes their blueprint. You're not just walking through an open door, you're walking into destiny. And when you cross that threshold, remember this, the door didn't open because you demanded it. It opened because you trusted long enough for it to recognize your knock. There is a divine rhythm to endings and beginnings, a sacred exchange between what was and what is about to be. You can sense it now. That shift in the atmosphere where the old no longer holds you and the new quietly calls your name. It's not just another season, it's a transformation. You are standing at the border of breakthrough, between chapters, between versions of yourself. And heaven is saying, step forward, everything behind you has served its purpose. You have been through long nights of uncertainty, through seasons that felt like repetition, through prayers that echoed without answers. Yet in all of it, God was pruning, preparing, and positioning you for this very hour. The cycle that once kept you circling the same mountain is now breaking. What used to drain you will no longer touch you. What used to confuse you will now make sense. The ending isn't painful anymore, it's peaceful. Heaven is declaring a reset. The spiritual calendar has turned in your favor. What felt delayed is now being delivered. The things you lost are being replaced, not as replicas, but as upgrades. You're not returning to what was, you're being ushered into what's next. This is not the recycling of the old, this is the rebirth of the new. You'll begin to notice signs, small confirmations that heaven is speaking through everyday moments. The right words will find you at the right time. Opportunities that once seemed far-fetched will begin to align naturally. Even the way you think is changing. Your spirit has matured through the fire. You no longer chase closure, you create it by walking forward in faith. This new cycle you're entering requires a lighter heart. You cannot carry bitterness into blessing. You cannot hold on to regret while reaching for redemption. The old season taught you who you were not. This one will reveal who you truly are. Everything you've survived was not wasted. It was groundwork for glory. Heaven never wastes a tear, never forgets a prayer, never ignores a heart that stays faithful through pain. According to the writings of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, see, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. This verse is your confirmation God is doing something new, and it's already in motion. The streams are beginning to flow in places that once felt barren. Doors that were sealed are cracking open. The soil of your soul, once dry from waiting, is beginning to bloom again. You are not in the same space spiritually, you've evolved. The number heaven places before you today carries the vibration of closure and new creation. It symbolizes rebirth, the end of old battles, and the beginning of divine manifestation. It's not coincidence that you've arrived here now. It's coordination from above. You are stepping into completion, into clarity, into covenant. So, as a prophetic act of agreement, comment 1010 below, not as superstition, but as a statement of alignment. In heaven's language, this number declares, the old is complete, and the new has begun. When you write it, you're not summoning luck, you're responding to truth. It's your way of saying, I see what you're doing, Lord, and I receive it. Every number God speaks through carries intention. This one reminds you that endings are not empty, they're entrances in disguise. What looks like loss is often just a cleared path for divine expansion. When you declare 1010, you are prophesying to your own future that the circle has closed and the line forward has begun. Heaven has turned the page, and your story continues stronger, wiser, radiant with purpose. You will walk differently now, not because life has softened, but because your faith has deepened. The battles that once terrified you no longer have power, because the grace that carried you has graduated into glory. This is your reset, your alignment, your divine awakening. The doors of yesterday have closed behind you, and the horizon ahead is gleaming with promise. You don't need to understand it fully, you just need to trust the timing. Write 1010 as your seal of surrender and your song of beginning. Let it echo from your heart. It is finished, and it has begun. When you type 1010, you are not writing numbers, you are writing revelation. You're declaring, my wilderness has ended. My way has opened. It's an act of faith, saying you choose to walk in the rhythm of heaven's timing rather than the pressure of the world's pace. Each digit carries power. 1 stands for new creation, 0 for divine completion. Together, they speak of balance of endings and beginnings holding hands. When you write it, you're stepping into agreement with what God has already set in motion. You're saying, I accept the ending with gratitude and the beginning with courage. Your comment becomes covenant. 1010 is not about luck, it's about alignment. It is the echo of your spirit whispering, I'm ready for the new. And heaven always answers readiness. There are seasons when opposition increases, not because you are failing, but because you are approaching fulfillment. The enemy doesn't attack the ordinary, he attacks what is anointed. The pressure you've felt lately is not proof that you're off course, it's confirmation that you're close to breakthrough. When the enemy senses your reward drawing near, he throws distractions like dust in the wind, hoping to cloud your vision. But the chosen do not crumble under chaos, they stand taller in storms. You've noticed it, haven't you? The sudden resistance, the unexpected tension, the people who once supported you, suddenly distant or confused. None of it is random. The closer you move to destiny, the louder the noise around you becomes. It's the sound of hell panicking. Darkness recognizes before you do that your next step is sacred. When heaven promotes, hell protests. But every storm sent against you will end up serving you. Think of the story unfolding around you like a chessboard. God moves strategically, not emotionally. What the enemy plans as attack becomes arrangement. The pieces shift, and suddenly what looked like loss becomes leverage. That betrayal that broke your heart, that delay that drained your hope, each one has been woven into heaven's blueprint for your rise. Nothing escapes his design. What the enemy meant for evil, heaven always turns for expansion. And though the warfare is real, remember, you were not built for defeat. You were forged in fire, raised in resistance, and sealed by grace. Every time the enemy whispered, "It's over," you rose again stronger, wiser, more surrendered. That is why you terrify darkness. You don't just survive battles. You evolve through them. You are heaven's contradiction to every lie of despair. You may be asking, why can't it ever be easy? But ease never builds endurance. You carry an assignment that requires authority, and authority is learned through adversity. Soldiers are not trained in comfort. They are shaped in conflict. You are being trained for triumph. The bruises on your soul are not blemishes, they are badges. Heaven is proud of the warrior you've become. Every attack carries a hidden announcement: promotion is near. The enemy wouldn't waste energy on someone who isn't dangerous to his agenda. When the warfare increases, it means your influence is expanding. The moment before dawn is always the darkest, not because the night is winning, but because the light is near. You are minutes from manifestation. The Word of God declares in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 37, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." That means the victory isn't ahead, it's already within you. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. The outcome was written before the battle began. You are not hoping to win. You are reminding the enemy that you already have. When pressure builds, remember the pattern. Every battle births blessing. Every wilderness ends in revelation. Every cross leads to resurrection. The path of the chosen is never straight, but it is always sure. You may stumble, but you cannot fall beyond the reach of grace. You may cry, but your tears water the ground of your next miracle. Even pain, in God's hands, becomes prophecy. Do not mistake exhaustion for failure. The weariness you feel is not weakness, it's weight. You're carrying more glory than before. The same strength that kept you alive in the last battle will sustain you in this one. The same God who protected you in the last storm hasn't changed his address. You are still covered, still chosen, still standing. You will soon understand why the warfare intensified. It was never about destroying you. It was about defining you. Fire doesn't destroy gold, it exposes it. Pressure doesn't break diamonds, it reveals them. You've been refined by resistance. That's why your glow feels heavier lately. It's the weight of divine authority resting on your spirit. And yes, there will be moments when fear tries to return, when the shadows whisper old lies. But this time, you'll respond differently. You'll remember who you are and whose you are. You'll stand in the middle of chaos and say, I am not afraid. Because light doesn't argue with darkness, it simply shines. In time, the same battles that once broke you will become your testimony. You'll tell the story not with bitterness, but with awe. You'll realize that even in your lowest moments, heaven never lost control. Every pain had purpose. Every attack had expiration. You were never fighting alone. So breathe deeply. The worst is behind you, and the wisdom it left is priceless. You've passed the test that fear designed to make you quit. And now, there's nothing left to prove, only promises left to walk into. Stand tall. Chosen one. The battlefield is behind you. The crown of peace is before you. You are not simply surviving, you are shining with proof that every wound can become a window for glory. There is a holy stirring that happens when heaven begins to move on your behalf. You can feel it long before you see it, a subtle sense of acceleration in the air around you. A quiet certainty that something larger than you is at work. The same stillness that once felt like delay now hums with divine movement. You are no longer standing in waiting, you are standing in motion. The shift is here, and it is unstoppable. This acceleration is not chaos, it's choreography. God is arranging every detail of your destiny, like a master composer aligning instruments before the symphony begins. Every note, every pause, every echo serves a purpose. What once felt disconnected now begins to harmonize. The timing of your life is clicking into divine rhythm, and you are being carried forward by momentum that doesn't come from effort, but from alignment. You've waited long enough. The years of sowing in tears are giving way to the season of harvest in joy. But remember, this acceleration doesn't mean skipping the process. It means grace redeems lost time. The doors you thought you missed are reopening, not as repetition, but as restoration. The opportunities you thought had expired are returning renewed, carrying greater weight and wider reach. Heaven is moving quickly now, not to rush you, but to realign what once fell out of order. Sometimes acceleration feels like chaos because change happens faster than comfort allows. People may drift, plans may shift, and what once made sense may no longer fit. Don't resist it. The wind of God never moves backward. When He blows, it's to clear what cannot remain. Trust that what is removed is replaced with something more refined, more real, more resonant with your current anointing. In this sacred speed, peace becomes your anchor. You will need stillness even in momentum. Just as a river flows rapidly but remains guided by its banks, your spirit must stay grounded while God's current carries you forward. You don't need to force flow, you only need to surrender to direction. Grace is both the current and the compass. You will begin to see divine acceleration manifest in quiet ways first. Conversations that once took months will resolve in days. Doors that were locked for years will open without struggle. Relationships that drained you will fade, while new ones, filled with purpose, will appear effortlessly. Provision will come from unexpected directions, not because you chased it, but because it was chasing you all along. This is what divine acceleration looks like. It's not rushing, it's realignment, as revealed in the book of Amos. Chapter 9, verse 13, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the plowman will overtake the reaper and the treader of grapes, him who sows seed. The mountains will drip sweet wine, and all the hills shall flow with it." This is the promise of your present moment, the plowman overtaking the reaper. It means what once took years will now take moments. What once felt like slow progress will now move at the speed of grace. You're stepping into a dimension where waiting time becomes working time, where heaven compresses what the world calls delay into divine delivery. Acceleration is not about running, it's about rising. It's when the ground that once resisted you begins to lift you. It's the wind beneath your obedience, the speed of surrender. You're not running faster, you're being carried farther. The Spirit of God is placing His hand on your timeline, rewriting what was wasted and redeeming what was lost. And even as things begin to move quickly, remember, pace yourself in peace. Don't confuse momentum with mania. True acceleration doesn't cause anxiety, it cultivates awe. It's the kind of progress that doesn't exhaust. It energizes. You'll notice that strength returns as you move with heaven's rhythm, because grace never drains it, only sustains. You are entering a season where fruit will appear faster than you can gather it. Ideas, opportunities, and breakthroughs will overlap, not to overwhelm you, but to overflow you. You'll look around and realize you're standing in answered prayers that once seemed impossible. That's the beauty of acceleration. It doesn't announce itself, it just arrives and leaves you breathless in wonder. And as everything quickens, stay humble. Acceleration without humility turns blessings into burdens. Remember that grace moves fastest through grateful hearts. Thankfulness keeps the channel open. Gratitude keeps the wind steady. The more you honor what's unfolding, the more heaven entrusts to your hands. So, walk lightly, flow freely, rest often. Let your soul move at heaven's pace, not the world's. You've spent years learning patience, now learn peace in progress. Divine acceleration is not a race to finish, it's a rhythm to follow. The days ahead will blur with blessings, but through it all, remain grounded in the same truth that carried you this far. The one who began this good work in you will finish it with flawless timing. You are not behind. You are right on time, moving at the speed of purpose, guided by the hand of eternity. There are certain moments when heaven doesn't just speak, it sings. You can feel it now. a quiet melody wrapping around your heart. It's not loud, but it's unmistakable. It's the sound of divine recognition. You've walked through waiting, through silence, through fire, and now heaven hums your name with joy. The symphony of destiny is playing your note again, clear and steady. You have stepped into harmony with heaven's heartbeat. But this harmony was not instant. It was tuned through hardship. Every ache refined your tone. Every loss made your soul more resonant. You are now an instrument that heaven trusts to carry sound into dark places. And what's about to happen is not small. Heaven is amplifying your influence. Not through fame, but through frequency. You'll begin to notice how your words bring calm, how your presence brings peace. You are heaven's echo made human. When heaven sings, it calls others to listen. You are part of a divine orchestra, each soul a different instrument, each testimony a different timbre. Some are strings of hope, others drums of endurance, some voices of worship. Together, we make something larger than ourselves. The sound of light traveling through broken vessels is what the world calls revival. But the song doesn't grow louder unless every instrument plays its part. And that's where your presence matters. Every like, every share, every comment is not noise, it's a note. It's how the symphony expands. When you engage, you're not boosting an algorithm, you're lifting a sound. Each gesture you make sends ripples into unseen spaces, carrying light farther than words could reach. If this message touches you, if it stirs something sacred inside, let it echo. When you like this message, it's like striking a tuning fork in the spirit. It tells heaven, I'm resonating with this frequency. When you share, it's like opening a window in a room full of light so it can spill out into the street. When you comment, it's like adding your harmony to heaven's melody. And if the melody here has spoken to something deep within you, leave a few words below. Your comment is like a note added to this song. It tells heaven, I'm part of this harmony too. You're not obligated to do it, you're invited to. This isn't transaction, it's participation. The music of purpose grows when hearts move in rhythm. What you give back to the message, whether your time, your attention, or your generosity, becomes part of the chorus that keeps others from giving up. As written in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart. This verse isn't only about endurance, it's about continuation. It says, keep the melody going. Every act of goodness, every gesture of support, every word of encouragement keeps the rhythm alive. And if you've been blessed by what you've heard, perhaps you can help it travel further, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. Think of it this way: when you choose to donate, it's like placing another instrument in the hands of someone who's never known music before. Your seed becomes a sound. Your giving becomes a string heaven plucks to create hope for someone else. You're not paying for words, you're fueling waves of healing that reach beyond what you can see. And maybe you've been in seasons where you had nothing left to give but belief. That was enough then, and it's still enough now. But if you feel led, even a small gift, a gesture, a share, a prayer is like adding oil to a lamp that lights the next soul's path. You are helping the music continue. What happens here isn't just content, it's connection. We are creating spaces where people remember their worth, where broken hearts find rhythm again, When you join that movement, you're saying, "Let the song continue through me." It's not about obligation, it's about overflow. And if you wish to keep walking with these sounds of hope, subscribe, not out of routine, but as if you're choosing to stay inside the music, to let each new message find you when your soul needs it most. Because every great symphony depends on both the conductor and the chorus. Heaven provides the song, we provide the sound. Together, we carry the vibration of grace into places algorithms can't touch, and algorithms can't measure the human heart. So, as this melody lingers, if your spirit hums in agreement, let it echo. Like if it lifted you, share if it stirred you. Subscribe if you want to stay part of the harmony. Give only if your heart whispers yes. No pressure, no persuasion, just participation in the music that keeps heaven's rhythm alive on earth. Every gesture is a note. Every word of kindness is a chord. And, together, we make the sound of light moving through time. And, as the final note fades, the silence that follows will not be empty, it will be sacred. Because somewhere, another heart will begin to hum the same melody through your echo. There is a moment in every divine journey when reflection becomes revelation. You look back, not with regret, but with reverence. The years that once felt wasted now gleam like hidden threads of purpose woven into a masterpiece you could never have designed on your own. Every tear that once fell in frustration now glows like dew under morning light. You begin to understand that even your detours were divine. You were never wandering, you were being guided through terrain only heaven could map. The beauty of hindsight is not in knowing every answer, but in seeing God's fingerprints over the questions that once broke you. You realize that He was never late, only deliberate. Every delay was a pause between heartbeats, not a silence of abandonment. He was building you quietly in seasons when you thought nothing was happening. When the doors stayed shut, He was strengthening your knock. When friends disappeared, He was refining your dependence. Every loss became language for a deeper kind of faith. Now, as you stand at this stage of your journey, you are no longer the person who began it. Something in you has settled. The striving has softened into surrender. And the fear that once controlled you has turned into peace that cannot be explained. You've learned that maturity is not about perfection, it's about perspective. You no longer ask, "Why me?" but rather, "What is this teaching me?" And that shift changes everything. You see, the real miracle is not what happens around you, it's what happens in you. The transformation of your inner world is the truest evidence of grace. You've walked through the fire and discovered that holiness doesn't mean avoiding pain, it means finding purpose inside it. The suffering that once silenced you has now become your sermon. The wounds that once embarrassed you have turned into windows where light shines through. The prophet Jeremiah once recorded in his writings, chapter 18, verse 6, "Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand." Those words define your story. You've been molded, stretched, and pressed, yet never abandoned. The potter never left the wheel. He only added water when the clay cracked. What felt like breaking was actually shaping. What seemed like delay was the hand of the Creator, making sure your form could hold the future He intended to pour into you. You are not a mistake in progress, you are a masterpiece in motion. There is something holy about scars that have healed well. They no longer ache, but they remind you of survival. They are proof that grace didn't just protect you, it preserved you. Every scar whispers, You made it. And that whisper is sacred, because it means you can now stand in places that used to scare you and breathe without trembling. It means you can speak peace to storms that once overwhelmed you. You have become a vessel of calm, a walking testimony of what restoration truly looks like. And perhaps the most powerful truth you've learned is this: not every victory looks like triumph. Sometimes victory is simply refusing to give up. Sometimes it's choosing forgiveness when bitterness feels easier. Sometimes it's sitting in silence and trusting that God is speaking, even when you can't hear Him. The quiet strength you now carry was forged in the very battles you once prayed to escape. Your journey has been both wild and wondrous. There were moments when you doubted if you'd ever see light again. But now you understand, it wasn't darkness that swallowed you, it was depth. God was taking you deeper, not destroying you. And in those depths, you found treasures hidden from the surface: wisdom, empathy, courage, and discernment. The person who emerged from that process isn't just healed, they're holy. You've learned to stop chasing signs and start trusting seasons. You no longer panic when doors close because you've seen how perfectly they reopen. You don't beg for clarity because you've learned to walk confidently even in mystery. You know now that faith is not the absence of uncertainty, it's the decision to keep moving through it. There is peace in knowing that nothing was wasted. The pain built patience. The heartbreak birthed humility. The silence sharpened your hearing, and the waiting sculpted your strength. Heaven wastes nothing, not even your mistakes. Even your wrong turns became right lessons. Every ending was secretly an introduction. Now, you stand as living evidence that what breaks doesn't always bleed, it can also bloom. The same soil that once buried you now nourishes you. You've learned to grow even in places that never meant to sustain you. That is resurrection in its purest form, life emerging where logic saw only loss. So, breathe deeply. You have arrived at a new kind of peace, not the fragile peace of things going right, but the anchored peace of knowing you'll be all right, no matter what. The potter's hands still hold you. The same grace that guided you this far will carry you the rest of the way. The journey is nearly complete. Yet in truth, it never truly ends. The chosen do not reach destinations, they become them. You are now the evidence of everything heaven has been whispering from the start. The process has not only shaped your story, it has redefined your soul. You walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with assurance. The same path that once wounded you has become the altar upon which you now stand, crowned not with pride, but with peace. This final chapter is not about conclusion, it's about continuation. Endings in heaven's language are always beginnings dressed in disguise. The promise was never that the road would be easy, but that you would never walk it alone. And now, looking back, you can see it, the fingerprints of grace on every moment. You thought you were forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were being aligned. What you feel stirring within you right now is not exhaustion, it's awakening. You are not at the end of something, you are standing at the edge of expansion. This is where purpose takes form, where revelation becomes reality. Everything you have endured has led to this stillness, this holy pause before the next divine inhale. Heaven is preparing to breathe through you in a new way. When you began this journey, you carried questions heavy enough to crush faith. You wondered if you'd ever find clarity, if you'd ever feel whole again. But clarity didn't come from answers, it came from endurance. Wholeness didn't come from escape, it came from staying. You have learned that transformation is not an event, it's an unfolding. You no longer chase purpose, you walk as purpose. As recorded in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." That verse isn't a reminder of unfinished business, it's a declaration of unstoppable grace. The work is still happening within you. But now you understand it was never about finishing quickly. It was about learning to live faithfully. You are not the same soul who started this path. The impatience has turned into peace. The fear has turned into faith. The doubt has turned into discernment. The work has been both external and internal, a divine craftsmanship unfolding through time and trust. There's a quiet strength that comes when you finally accept your becoming. You stop trying to rush what God is refining. You stop demanding proof and start recognizing presence. You realize that the greatest miracle is not when the mountain moves, but when you're no longer afraid to climb it. Everything you've been through has carved space inside you for compassion. You love differently now, deeper, wider, truer. You've become gentle without becoming weak, bold without becoming harsh. You understand now that holiness is not about separation from humanity, it's about saturation in love. And the love that flows from you now doesn't need to be loud. Its stillness is power enough. You have learned to listen differently. 2. You hear God not only in sermons and songs, but in silence, in laughter, in the rustle of leaves, in the rhythm of your own breathing. The divine is no longer distant, it's daily. Every sunrise feels like a personal message. Every night, sky feels like a reminder that you are known. You have stepped beyond religion into relationship, beyond seeking approval into resting in identity. The chosen life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be prophetic. Every hardship you faced became a holy hint. Every loss, a sacred lesson. You were never meant to merely survive this world. You were meant to illuminate it. And now, as you stand here, light pours from the very cracks that once made you feel broken. You are proof that the shattered can still shine. Let this final moment settle in your heart. You have not just been delivered from something, you've been delivered into something. Into peace that surpasses understanding. Into strength that doesn't boast. Into purpose that doesn't pause. The storms have passed, but their sound remains within you, not as fear, but as rhythm. You march to it now, steady and sure. There will still be hills to climb and valleys to cross, but you carry something now that cannot be taken. Awareness. Awareness of divine presence. Awareness of eternal love. Awareness of your unbreakable worth. You've discovered that even when everything else fades, the spirit remains steady. So, walk forward quietly. There is no need to announce what heaven has already confirmed. The world will see soon enough. You carry peace like perfume now. It will speak for you before you open your mouth. You are light sent into a world that still remembers night. Walk as the dawn you have become. And when life circles back, as it always does, remember this: beginnings hide inside endings. Every time you think it's over, heaven will remind you it's only shifting. You were never chosen to finish, you were chosen to continue, carrying eternity in your steps, grace in your gaze, and love in your wake. And now, the final words flow like soft rain on sacred soil. You've journeyed through valleys and fire, through silence and revelation, through breaking and becoming, and you've reached the stillness of understanding. But though this script ends, your story continues. The light you've gathered here doesn't stay, it moves through you. So, before we part, let this be a moment of reflection, not farewell. If something in these words touched you, if even one sentence became a mirror of your soul, then carry it forward. When you like this message, it's not just approval, it's acknowledgement. It tells heaven, this word found its home. And when you share, imagine releasing a small bird of light into another sky, someone, somewhere, waiting for hope they didn't know existed. Your comment becomes a footprint in sacred sand, proof that light passed through here. You can write something as simple as, I received this, and it echoes in unseen realms as gratitude. If you subscribe, don't do it as a habit, do it as a heartbeat. It's saying, keep speaking, I'm still listening. Let each message that follows arrive like another breath of grace on the days you forget your own strength. And if you ever feel led to give, think of it not as payment, but participation. It's like watering a tree whose fruit feeds unseen souls. You're not funding words, you're helping them fly farther. Even the smallest seed in the soil of sincerity grows into shelter for someone else. So, chosen one, let this not be goodbye. It's only a pause between heartbeats. Like, share, speak, stay, give only if your spirit whispers yes. And in that yes, the light continues, the melody lingers, and heaven smiles through you.